some school districts may just get a lot of processed food and that's what they're serving on the plates. And I'm not a firm believer of that. I mean, kids can get a homey meal even if you're serving 500 meals, right? Even if it's at least a couple entrees or whatever it may be on a monthly basis or a weekly basis or daily basis. And so another area that the initiatives and what we try to do is culturally acceptable foods, right? What are the kids eating at home? What do they like eating? And how can we incorporate that in our menus, right? Are we doing enchiladas? It's a big, Mexican, Spanish cultural foods that are in our region. But at the same time, then maybe try and bring some new stuff in too.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Culinary 360 podcast. We're excited to have you here. I'm one of your hosts, Chef Robert.
And I'm Chef Ryan.
And today we're really excited to have Felix Grego from the Rancho School District, which is just outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I met Felix about a year ago when he came into Phoenix for our tour to schools. And he's just really passionate about school food service. He's the executive director of student nutrition for Rancho. But he's got a really cool background where he actually was a teacher for a while. Plus, he also was a coach for track and basketball within the districts that he worked. So excited to hear about all this from Felix himself. And Felix, welcome to the Culinary 360 podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan and Robert. I appreciate you inviting me to come out and share some of the good work and stuff that we do here at Rio Rancho Public Schools. So look forward to having some good conversations and talk a little bit about what we do.
Yeah,
Definitely.
This all started about a year ago. You actually came to Phoenix because we were doing the tour to schools where we take directors from the Southwest around to some of the Phoenix area schools and see some of the different things that they're doing with equipment and serveries and, talking about throughput and participation and, the different unique things that they're doing. And you and I got talking and you were telling me about some of the really cool things at the high school and that you've got actually a working farm there, I think with both produce and animals, if I'm remembering correctly. Could you maybe let our listeners know a little bit more about that? Because that was really cool.
Yeah, sure. So, again, we went out to Phoenix and, we did, get the opportunity to take a look at some of the Arizona districts and some of the good things that they do, in particular with some of the equipment that they had. And so over the course of the last couple of years, what we've done is really enhanced, our combis, our tilt skillets, a lot of our equipment to ensure that, our kitchen staff have, really good resources. And so Robert and I were having a good conversation. And so here in New Mexico, the public education department who oversees the national school lunch program here in New Mexico implement a farm to school type. It's called a New Mexico Grown Grant. And so with that being said, districts are able to apply and we're able to get access with local farmers and ranchers throughout, New Mexico. And we're able to purchase some of their local produce and or their meats from our ranchers. And so there's a couple of partners that we have here in the Rio Grande Valley. So those of you that are not, do not know kind of the New Mexico landscape, there's the Rio Grande River runs kind of down the middle of New Mexico, and it's one of the largest rivers. Not very big, but there's a lot of farms and ranchers that do a lot of agriculture and things of that nature. And so we have Wagner Farms. We purchased chili from Wagner Farms, and then and some produce, and then we also have we partnered with Silverleaf, which is again another farmer. His name's Alon. Alon does not only farming produce, but he also has hydroponic greenhouse.
That's cool.
Which is pretty cool, man. And so he does, butter lettuce, he does mixed greens. And so we partner with him and we try and get a delivery of, some of his fresh product to our high schools in particular. And we utilize that for our wraps, some of our lettuce salads, mixed salads. We do like a buffalo chicken salad, a Caesar salad. And with that being said, some of that meat we work with USDA, kind of to showcase some of our product, and so our
Nice.
Caesar salad and as well as our carnita tacos, we won for innovative scratch for those items this last year. So yeah, we do a lot of partner stuff. Again, getting that fresh produce to some of our students is definitely a plus.
Yeah, I just think farm to table cooking now for schools especially is just so important for kids, especially to kind of learn more about products too that are coming into the school and nutrition for them. Kind of things like that. Speaking of which, can we take a step back though and just kind of let our viewers know a little bit about you and exactly what you do?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sometimes I jumped a little too far into this and didn't.
Robert loves just going deep dive into
Yeah,
it.
we went straight to the meat of the conversation. With that definitely helped the viewers for sure. So my name is Felix Grego. I'm the executive director here at Rio Rancho Public Schools, student nutrition department. And so my primary responsibility is feed our students in the district. We have approximately 21 school sites, about 16,000 students.
Oh.
So it's a rather large operation. Cool thing is all of our kitchens or our school sites have a kitchen, so we don't really satellite really food much to our students, so they get things right out of the oven, served right on the lines and the
Nice.
steam wells and things of that nature. And so I've been here 3 years. Prior to coming to the district, I was a deputy director for public education department. And we oversaw the whole state for the national school lunch program. So,
Cool.
I worked directly with other districts. Now I'm on the district level um, to ensure that they're operating the national school lunch program in compliance and make sure that they're meeting all the standards that they're supposed to be doing. So did that for about 10 years, and then I was an educator prior to that, taught business and math. So it's a short but sweet version of myself, I guess.
All over the place with the schools.
Yeah,
You've done
it's
like a little bit of
important.
everything, like a Swiss Army knife of the school districts.
Yeah, I like to consider myself pretty diverse in multiple areas, and then it's important to me. I mean, our students are our future, right? And so
Yeah.
we want to ensure that they get that good, healthy foundation, right? They're eating at schools and they're able to perform well in their classrooms. I do pride myself in doing that.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, you were also a track and basketball coach too, right?
Yeah. So
Not like you're not busy enough.
yeah, I missed it. I was actually we have the New Mexico State basketball championships this week. So I was
wow.
looking at some scores, and I was able to go to a couple games in the last couple of nights and kind of check them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I taught junior varsity track and field, jumps and sprints, and then middle school basketball, a little bit of high school basketball. So I enjoy working with the kids also. So it's
Yeah.
fun to see them excel.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, we have the Final Fours here in Phoenix this year, which is going to be pretty cool. We got a lot of people coming into town for that, and
Nice.
Ignite does a March Madness thing, so I'm flying into Denver, the headquarters, next week, and doing a bunch of food for the people who are coming in and
Oh,
picking their
really?
numbers and picking their teams and all that stuff for the Final Four that Ignite sponsors. Yeah, I'm going to be making a lot of food
Yeah, you are.
and just serving a lot of stadium.
that
I'm going to be
sounds
serving a lot of
exciting,
stadium
Robert.
food out of the kitchen.
I didn't get the invite on that one, Robert. I know Robert makes some pretty.
Oops.
He's a pretty good chef there.
Yeah.
Well, you are welcome to come to Denver and participate.
Is that's in a couple weeks? I think 2 weeks.
Well, we're going to pick number.
Yep.
Everybody's going to come to Denver and pick numbers next week, and then it's the first weekend of April is the Final Four game downtown here in Phoenix.
So that's ironic. I think I will be there during that time frame.
Oh, yeah, what are you coming into town for?
29th through the 2nd.
Okay.
We have our spring break here, so I was going to take the family out to Phoenix and enjoy the nice weather.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me know. Maybe we can hook up somewhere or something. But yeah. So because the stadium's downtown, and that's where the game will be. So yeah, that weekend it's going to be a little nuts downtown. So you either want to be in that or you want to stay away from that. I don't know what you do.
Crazy.
A little bit of both, I
Yeah.
think.
When does spring training start in Arizona too, Robert?
That already started.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it was last week.
Oh, so you guys are going to be
So it's
really
all kicked
busy in
off.
Arizona.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. And I'm trying to put together a industry day at the Diablo Stadium, which is Anaheim, or I guess it's the California Angels now. It's literally 1 mile from the kitchen here, so it's like can just come here, tailgate, and walk over there, and walk back because then you don't have to fight the parking and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
But yeah,
Awesome.
and it's going to be brutal this coming week for all the people who are coming into town for the games because we're having super unseasonally hot weather. It's going to be over 100. And so it's going to be breaking records. We shouldn't even hit 100 until May. And it's March and we're hitting 100.
That sounds nice. It's snowing in Seattle right now. So
that's why I'm here.
loving that.
It's pretty interesting the way the weather's kind of panned out. Even in New Mexico, we typically, northern part of New Mexico, we get a decent amount of snow, and we haven't gotten very much.
Yeah, we got it all for you. We got it for you this year.
Yeah.
Is that where you're at, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm up in Washington.
Nice. Yeah. I think they're the ACTA conference is up there mid-April, I think. So American Commodity Distribution Association.
Oh.
And so USDA supplements some of the food costs for school districts. And then we work with big manufacturers, like your Tysons and the big guys to do a lot of the processing for the chicken and things of that nature. So looking forward to that conference. It's usually a really good conference to attend. Very, very good sessions, very diverse.
That'd be interesting. That'd be fun to go to.
What do they talk about at those sessions then?
So it's a lot of like how you can incorporate some processed stuff, but also do like a speed scratch type cooking and things of that nature, how you can take, and so the big ones is like your cheese products, right? Your chicken, your beef, and how you can turn your entitlement into actual product that you can utilize in your meals, like, hamburger patties and chicken patties and things of that nature, different type of, meats for your stir fries or your pastas and things of that nature. So it's a great program, and it really helps districts with keeping that food cost a little lower, just to ensure that you can still have a little bit of revenue to purchase good equipment for your kitchens,
or work with the farmers and be able to
work with
those
farmers.
specialty things.
I was gonna say, speaking of food costs, does it help working with local farmers more than getting products in from like big places like Cisco or something like that?
Well, so it does help. I mean, there's a couple of aspects to that, right? Versus, for instance, the silver leaf lettuce that we get, it's literally probably 2.5 miles down the road.
Yeah.
The logistics are much better, right?
Yes.
And then I'm able to have that direct relation with the farmers and say, I want butter lettuce. This is the lettuce, or these are the products that I would like. This is what's going to be on my menu. And then they're able to kind of meet your needs versus, you work with your larger distributors and companies. Obviously, they produce, based on what their market analysis is and what the supply and demand is, right?
Definitely.
And then you don't get that logistical cost working with farmers. And so it all weighs out, right? I mean, obviously, if you're going to get something organic, the cost of the lettuce may be a little bit more. But then at the end of the day, your logistics are a little less. So it kind of balances out,
Yeah, the carbon footprint goes down, like all that stuff with it.
Yeah, definitely. And but I mean, the overall quality, right, is going to be much better if it was picked yesterday than a week ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's pros and cons to all of it, but I really enjoy working with farmers. One of the things that we do is we give back, right? And we have that relationship. So we're giving back state funds back into the state rather than maybe those funds going out of state. And so helping local, small mom and pop farmers, and they have their families, they have their costs. And so it's a win-win. I enjoy it. it's good and it's good
how
for
do you
everyone.
promote that
Yeah.
local and with the students so that the students feel like they're, I guess I would, I mean, if I was going to school and I was finding out that this lettuce or this meat or whatever is coming from, maybe I even know the kids or the grandkids of the farmer, I'd want to know about that at being the student. Are you promoting that within the school that this is coming from local and we're working with these people and this is why it tastes so good, and really educating the kids more on that? Because I know that so many times I hear younger kids, they think they don't even know that a chicken really runs around a farm. They just think it's that thing in that plastic tray with the paper with the plastic wrap over it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really good question. I mean, we really do try and market, our product as much as possible. One of the things that we do in the month of October is we do like a New Mexico grown. It's a New Mexico grown month in October for New
Okay.
Mexico. We do one particular week where we get Alans and we get, our Red Dock. So we utilize Red Dock. We get a lot of meat from them. C4 Farms, a lot of meat from those guys. And then like Wagner Farms, we get a lot of watermelon and that during that time frame, which is great because we'll order a bunch of watermelon and we'll have staff make, watermelon juice, and then we'll cut fresh watermelon. At one of our high schools, um, the owner from Wagner Farms was able to come up and help serve watermelon to the
Cool.
kids.
Okay.
And we
Yeah.
had pictures and we were able to talk a
Yeah.
little bit about, where it comes from, right?
Yeah.
Corrales Farms. Did you realize that it's literally 3 miles down the way? And they're like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And the watermelon is delicious. And then we also did one at Rio Rancho High School where we had one of our cooks or chefs um, was able to fry up some meat for the kids right in front of them. Um, and the owner from Red Dock Farms actually brought us some fresh meat, and it was nice because that day, the day before, they picked some fresh apples from their orchard also.
Oh,
Oh,
very
So
cool.
she showed up with a bunch of fresh apples, and we were able to give little samples of the diced beef to the students, and they were able to kind of understand, oh, these guys are in Belen, which is only 45 miles down the road, and so we try to do a lot of marketing events on that. I've done a couple of presentations over at a couple of our elementary schools, kind of the importance of eating healthy, nutritious foods,
mhm.
Nice.
um, healthy fresh fruit and vegetables. We also offer the USDA fresh fruit and vegetable program, which is like a supplemental program.
Okay.
And what we're able to do is give them unique fruits and vegetables, right? And it's kind of like a snack in the afternoon for them. And then we give them an educational piece and we talk, well, this jujube is from here and here. And so when we have fresh local stuff, we're able to talk about that.
Yeah.
One of the sessions that I did do, we had just ordered some fresh green peppers, and so we were able to give them samples as I was talking to them. Hey, this is where these peppers are coming from, and did you know in your salad bars you get fresh grown vegetables from New Mexico? And
Yeah.
so we're able to kind of talk about those types of things. But we try and market as much as we possibly can, just so the students do recognize that, and then they can go home and talk to their mom and dad about it, or grandpa and
Yeah.
grandma, and then
Definitely.
hopefully that sparks their interest to go to farmers markets and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
so I'm guessing staffing in the schools for the cooks and chefs that you do have in there, is it pretty, since you are doing a lot of farm to table, do you like run classes with them, or like do you kind of hire different of the outlook of more knife skills and things like that? Do you know what I'm kind of saying, compared to of like
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of like food and safety
yeah,
trainings that we're required to do, obviously, based on regulations and the programs that we're on. But there are some knife skills and things of that nature that we do offer um, for some of our cooks and some of our people that staff our kitchens. There's conferences like Student Nutrition Association and
cool. Okay.
Institute of Child Nutrition. They offer a lot of similar classes that you can either do online, or if you go to the state conference, you can go and, for instance, they'll do like a fruit carving class. And
Yeah.
so
Okay.
people can go in and they can carve some fruit and make, really cool things. And then we judge them and they'll get prizes and things of that nature. So there are a lot of resources for not
Right.
only our district staff, but staff in New Mexico in general and clear across kind of the United States is just finding those resources,
Yeah.
which is important.
Yeah, I work with the WSDA out here in Washington, and they're like the agriculture department, but they'll
Yeah,
do cooking classes in the kitchen here for lunch ladies
cool.
on how to like sanitize a cutting board right and knife skills and do this and this and this and like we'll cook a meal together here and stuff like that. And it's really cool to see like 25 lunch ladies in here and they're all just like, this is freaking amazing. Like, and they're having
Yeah.
like such a good time. Like they, some of them have never julienned an onion before, like, and they're doing it and they're just like having such a blast. And then it's just like, they go back to the schools more excited of like, why aren't we doing more of this here? Like, let's get more fresh food in here. Let's work with farmers and get better products and stuff for the kids. And it's just cool to see them light up like that.
Yeah, you get them out of the box, right?
Yeah.
And they start thinking out of the box. It's not just school setting, right? It gets
Right.
them thinking about the culinary arts piece. Our Department of Agriculture and Public Education, they put on similar things like that. They just did
Okay.
one, I think in December at the Hispanic Cultural Center, or Native American Cultural Center, I think it was, and they have a kitchen there, and they're able to make meals. It's pretty
Nice.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't take advantage of some of the resources that are out there. Maybe they just either haven't thought about it or just weren't put. I don't know. I feel that, us chefs, we love to give back all the time and educate and teach and things like that. So, an example, kind of like what you guys were just talking about, I had a district here in the Valley contact me. They had been here for something, I don't know, a while ago. And so Alhambra contacted me and they're like, hey, could we do a event in your kitchen to get our staff out of their kitchens to make it a team building type thing? And would you teach them some of the basics of knife skills and cuts and those things like you were talking about, Ryan, proper sanitation, proper setting up a station?
Yeah.
The things that we learned when we were in culinary school and got out of culinary school. And some of these, and some of these food dudes and lunch ladies, they don't have a culinary background, but they're passionate about the students. They're
Mhm.
passionate about the food, yet no one's really pulled them aside and showed them the proper way to do something. They've just had to learn on their own. And there might be tips and tricks where, hey, this is a little bit quicker, this is a little bit easier, this is the way to do this. So I'm going to do that class. And I just casually mentioned it to two other districts recently that I just happened to bump into. And they're like, oh my God, can we do this too? And I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Come on in. The more the merrier, let's have some fun. Let's give back.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just
So I guess we're going to New Mexico now and doing this there too, huh?
No, I'm all for it, Robert. So my mind is spinning. I'm like, hey, Ryan, what do you got going on June 3rd through the 5th?
Notice he goes to Ryan and not me.
yeah.
Robert, let's go. We got to come out. I've been trying to get Robert to come out the last couple months, but he's a busy guy. So, I know you guys are busy, but getting your guys' expertise,
Yeah.
into the schools and getting that knowledge for our staff is very, very valuable. Again, they start thinking outside the box,
Yeah.
right? And there's
Right.
ideas that, between a chef or kitchen staff person that they can, just run across, right? I mean, as professionals, we all come together and we're like, oh, I didn't ever think about that, Robert.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
good idea. And it really helps. It helps people grow. I mean, in the food industry in general, I know when I go to conferences, larger conferences, they do a lot of like chefs cook, like Student Nutrition Association, which is the national conference. A lot of awesome chefs go and they'll spice up a lunch that's served to students. And who says that, our students can't get those special dishes, right?
Right.
And so that's one of the things we try and expand to. One of the areas, so we have universal healthy school meals. Um, initiative. So that's basically says all students can now get a free meal, whether you're free, reduced, or paid, right? And the
Oh,
state
that's excellent.
supplements it.
Yep.
And so one of the initiatives that they do there is scratch cooking. So it was one of the requirements that you have to do 50% or greater scratch cooking. And
Okay.
so a lot of the times, some of these, some school districts may just get a lot of processed food and that's what they're serving on the plates. And I'm not a firm believer of that. I mean, kids can get a homey meal even if you're serving 500 meals, right? Even if it's at
Yeah.
least a couple entrees or whatever it may be on a monthly basis or a weekly basis or daily basis. And so another area that the initiatives and what we try to do is culturally acceptable foods, right? What are the kids eating at home? What do
Right.
they like eating? And how can we incorporate that in our menus, right? Are we doing enchiladas? It's a big, Mexican, Spanish cultural um, foods that are in our region. But at the same time, then maybe try and bring some new stuff in too,
Yeah.
because kids like new stuff. So it's one of a lot of things that we're doing here in New Mexico, not only in New Mexico, but in particular in my school district is what we try and do.
That's awesome.
Now, something that you had mentioned was you started talking about some of the different things that you're getting from the farmers. And I guess bad on me, I just never really thought about it. I was like, all you think about is chilies and hatch chilies, of course, from New Mexico, because that's what you hear and that's what's marketed so heavy. But I'm like, you're talking about the watermelons and the apples, and it all makes sense to me now. But I just hadn't thought about that. And yes, you have a lot of different biodiversity or growing climates because there are flat areas, there is desert, there is mountains, New Mexico's kind of unique. What are maybe some of the more unique foods that are grown or fruits or vegetables that are grown in
I mean,
New Mexico that we wouldn't think
there's a wide
about?
variety, right? And we can't get away from the green and red chili, that's for sure.
Right.
But
The
that's a staple.
Christmas, right? They call it Christmas when you mix the red and green
Yeah.
chili sauce. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
I can't wait to have the
Let's
debate with you. Who's better, Colorado or New Mexico?
Oh, wow.
That one's a no-brainer, Ryan, but I won't get into that one. If you come to New Mexico, I think we put green chili in we can put green chili in pretty much anything we cook, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, with New Mexico, I mean, it is, as you get further down south, I mean, you know this, Robert, I mean, even in Arizona, I mean, you have to be resourceful of your water when water's valuable. And so that's, as I was talking about that, it's like we didn't get a lot of snow, therefore our runoffs are going to be good. And so all that impacts our farmers and our food supply. But you got to think around the box, like Alon at Soberleaf, man. I mean, he got out of the box and he has a awesome hydroponic lettuce system. And I mean, he produces a significant amount of food out of that. And I think that's an area where I think people are really starting to excel, right? Clear across the nation, because we're coming across these weather conditions that are impacting our food resources. And so I'll give you a good example now. I mean, we just got a hydro tower for one of our elementary schools. One of the ones that I talked at.
I saw one of those at a school district down outside of Tucson.
Yeah, they're really cool. And I mean, you can put your seeds in, right? And then it has the hydro system and it's pretty self-sustainable. And for us, that was pretty important because, again, we've had school gardens, and what happens when you leave in the summer? Who's watching the school garden, right? And then
Exactly.
And then you have wind and you're not getting rain. And so you work really hard to get it going and then it doesn't sustain itself. So rather, these hydroponic systems are a little bit more sustainable. They still need a lot of love and they can be a little costly, but we really got to start looking in that direction. That's for sure.
Yeah. And that's a lot less water than watering a field. So yeah, I was up in Flagstaff the other day and there was only snow on the peaks. There wasn't any snow below the peaks. So yeah, it's been same here. It's been a bad year for runoff.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. We won't know until the summer comes, I think.
True.
You guys are referencing 100 degrees in March. It's pretty intense.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And California's got all the power, so they're going to take all the water.
And Washington has all the water and snow now. So
Yeah,
we'll try to give you guys some, maybe, hopefully.
yeah, we're still trying to convince Texas and Colorado for that one.
Yeah.
We could use a little bit more of that water, I think.
So when you were talking about working with the farms, that reminded me of something. I was talking, or the director from Tucson Unified was at an event in my kitchen, sponsored by it's a nonprofit called the Blue Watermelon Project, and they work with districts. They have a chef in the garden program where they teach different um, c- different recipes based on different products that you can get here in Arizona. But she was talking, and Tucson Unified has a really great program where they are working with farmers in the area up to 90 miles away, and they're getting um, something like 15 or 20% of their produce local. But they
Wow.
said that the hardest part was the transportation, getting it from the farm to the school.
Mm.
And have you experienced those same kind of challenges? And how did you get around that, or what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, so I've seen that, and so I'm not necessarily I'm fortunate because I'm kind of center, right
Okay.
out kind of northwest of Albuquerque, right, and so in our general area, again, that Rio Grande Valley, we're right on the Rio Grande Valley. There's a lot of farmers, and there's more growers and farmers here. And ranchers than there are in other locations of New Mexico versus like southeast, right? Southwest. If you're further down south or even further north, New Mexico is a pretty decent sized state. And so when I was with public education, for the time that I was there, that was the biggest problem that they had. And it was primarily for those smaller districts, right?
Okay.
They didn't have they were feeding that many students, let's just say, it was a district of 200, right? And so to get a delivery, right, of watermelons, I mean, they're not going to need a couple pallets of watermelons, right? Maybe a half a pallet of watermelons or cases or whatever it may be, right? And the farmers would share that cost with them. So then their cost for whatever they were ordering was higher.
Okay.
And so logistically, the state's been working with a lot of food hubs and things of that nature to see if they can be that median and try and ship some of that product out to them. And then another big thing is working with other districts that are in your region.
Okay.
To share that cost. Hey, Debbie from Bernalillo, are you going to need watermelons next week also? Well, maybe we can work together and get a couple of orders from those growers, and then we can share some cost on that. So, but that's a big factor. I mean, Arizona's one of them, right?
Yeah.
I guess you had to have to think about like what kind of trucks they would use too to go back and forth with them, and I mean staffing too with the farmers, like
Yep.
all sorts of things of like all that stuff kind of ties into. You're kind of lucky that you have one just like 2 miles down the road, which is really sweet, especially for your lettuce there. But even when I was in California, when I was in restaurants and stuff like that, we always really wanted to work with local farmers. But one of the big things was how they gave us their produce was so difficult because we couldn't accept it because it came in like a car, and we're like, we don't know how long it's been in your car. I can't accept it. Like, I'm sorry. Like things like that were just such a tight thing with that type of stuff. So working around that must be kind of difficult sometimes.
It's a big deal. And now that you're talking about that, I was just thinking about, so we work with the Department of Agriculture here in New Mexico, obviously. And then, the state public education department, they oversee the national school lunch program. But, over the course of the last 2 years, that relationship has gotten a lot stronger. And so that communication as far as, and where I'm going with this is your house standards, right? For the product, right? Getting getting certifications for you being able to sell to, public schools. is a little bit of an obstacle for these farmers sometimes too. And so,
Okay.
and then the
Yeah.
knowledge, right? And then it gets into financials and procurements and contracts. And so getting these farmers and ranchers on board and all working together is pretty critical.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Do you think you as you keep going with the farm to table cooking and things like that, do you think you'll try to work with more farmers out in New Mexico in different areas and stuff?
I do try and expand kind of where I get product. I like to spread the wealth, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
Right? Spread the wealth, help me help you.
Yeah.
You can
Mhm.
give me things that maybe we're not serving on our menus and things of that nature. And so I'm looking at redoing my procurement for my district because obviously there's those thresholds that I can't spend a certain amount over unless they put a bid in. So when I did do a bid, I didn't get as many bids or farmers, ranchers that I wanted to, so I can expand, that market for our district. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is, and I'm in the process of doing it, putting out a new contract to accept new bids to try and get more farmers
Okay.
on our bid and try and get them used. And I know that again, public education and Department of Agriculture, they're really expanding the program to try and get more products. That's another one, right? Not only farmers, but
Yeah.
products. It used to be very specific to produce, but now it's expanded into the meats, and then it's expanding more into like different products, like dry product, right? Like pozole or hominy and
Hmm.
Okay.
your powdered chilies and your honeys and your mushrooms and things of that nature. So the program is growing here significantly.
Good. That's nice. That's nice. So I kind of have a question with like your lunch menu or breakfast menu or things like that. Do you change it like every week, or is it kind of like a set in place thing? I know you mentioned like you have really good salads and things like that, and you do chicken wrap. Do you kind of play and like try to write different menus every once in a while, or you kind of just keep it kind of steady throughout?
It's both.
Okay.
I think obviously y'all know. I mean, being chefs, right? You may think that this item that you put on the menu was fabulous,
Yeah.
right? And maybe maybe your clientele or your customers didn't have the same palate as you, and so it's trial and error, right? I think cooking. I mean, we do have things on our menu that the
Especially for
kids
kids.
love. Kids love, and they'll eat it every day. I mean, it's the basics, right? Your
Yeah.
pizzas and your stuff like that, right? Um, but it's also incorporating again, trying. We just started like a walking Frito pie, right, with the Frito bag, and that flies off the shelf, right?
Right.
The participation's high on that. So obviously those items that are high demand, we keep. Things that the kids aren't looking at and we're seeing it getting thrown in the trash, we're going to try and remove those things.
Mhm.
Kind of back to your question
Mhm.
is we usually run a 4-week cycle.
Okay.
So we cycle out menus every 4 weeks, and then, um, a few times a year, 2, 3, 4 times a year, we'll go in and look at the menus, and then we'll change them up. For instance, our person Amy does the menus for our district. She just did the menus for next year. So,
Okay.
obviously we have product and we got to prep for next year. We have commodities, right? I talked about those types of products that USDA will get us, our meats, our cheeses, all those different type of products. We have a certain amount of entitlement, so we got to forecast and we got to
Mhm.
say, we're going to use 10,000 pounds of beef. We're going to use this amount of cheese. And so she's working on the menus now. And so we're prepping for next year for sure.
Nice. That's good. I always forget because like our job starts like January 1st and then the schools like they end like June. I'm like,
Yeah.
so when you're like starting next year, I'm like, dang, that is like a really long time before next year. But I'm like, never mind, it's like a few months away.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're in the middle of March already. I'm like,
I know.
it was just the beginning of the year, a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago, right?
Yeah. It's like January lasted forever. February went by really fast, except the last week in February was the longest week ever for some reason. And now it's already like the end of March. It's like, where did this all go to?
Well,
Yep.
there are only 28 days in February.
Yeah, but still. But I don't understand why that last week lasted longer than January.
Yep. And we got what is it? 31 days in March. It's kind of interesting, right? Shortest month
Yeah.
to the longest month.
Yeah, exactly.
When summer
Oh,
rolls
man.
around, do you do a summer feeding program?
We do. Yeah, we do
Okay.
summer feeding. So we'll obviously feed all our students that are doing like our summer programs, right? And doing
Okay.
you know, whether it be recreational or educational, it just depends if kids need summer school or it's an arts program or whatever it may be, right? We'll run those, and then we usually open up about we go to parks, and we give out our a breakfast and lunch to try and support our
Okay.
kids. In the summer, it's important that
Yeah.
sometimes, I mean, face the facts, right? Sometimes the only meals that a kid will get are at school, right? Your breakfast and
Mm-hmm.
lunch, and then they go home and they're eating ramen noodles, and it's not healthy, nutritious stuff, or whatever it
Right.
may be. Or parents are working late, and
Yep.
so there's a frozen pizza, and they gotta make a frozen pizza, and so we still try and do kind of homey meals, right? Obviously, the park stuff that we take in our Cambros and coolers, and we try and serve as many hot items as we possibly can. But anything helps, or even just a family being at a park, right? And they want to instead of spending $30 at McDonald's, they can get a
Yeah.
few meals for their kiddos there. So
Yeah.
we do usually do about 8 or 9 parks.
Oh,
Oh, that's
nice.
excellent.
That's really
And
That's
cool.
we
really
run it
awesome.
straight through, usually June through like the end last week of July, and then school usually starts here at the beginning of August. So fast and furious for sure. Always
Yeah.
working.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there
Definitely.
any sort of tie-in with the students going to the farms, field trips, or anything with the Department of Ag or anything like that?
Sure. I mean, there's a couple of programs. We're trying to get more of our teachers and principals on board to try and go some of our farms, and they do go. I know that I have a buddy that runs another farm right here in Corrales, and he was telling me that he had a middle school go down there, and sometimes like STEM courses, right? The science, technology. So
Okay.
the STEAM lab, STEM classes, they'll go down and they'll kind of show them, how things work. For instance, like hydroponics or even just traditional farming.
Yeah.
Um, I'd like to see that happen a little bit more here, and we've been working on that. One of the areas that we've been kind of doing, we just started, is like cooking with kids, right? But we
Okay.
call it a roving chef cart.
Cool.
Okay.
So we purchased 2 roving chef carts, and they're really cool. They have like a monitor, right? And they have a camera
Oh,
where you can
yeah.
see. I'm sure you guys seen those before?
No, I haven't. This
Mm-mm.
sounds cool.
So I'll send you some pictures. That
Yeah.
way you
Okay.
guys can check them out.
Yeah.
But long story short, we're trying to implement those in our elementaries to where the kids can go and they can learn about washing their hands,
Okay.
sanitary, and handling food, and they can go into the
Yeah.
kitchen and kind of see the operation behind the scenes.
Cool.
And then they can cook. For instance, they cooked some pizzas, right? And they
Okay.
decorated their pizzas, and we did that. So we're looking at trying to expand that, but it goes back to kind of what you're saying, Ryan, right? Labor costs. We got to
Yeah.
keep our labor costs in gear. And so
Yeah.
it's a balance for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
that cart, are you just seeing like product right there, or is there an induction plate on there, or does this go in front of an oven,
So
or?
there's a conduction plate where you can chef it up, right? And
Okay.
you can heat everything up, and then underneath there's
Yeah.
like a refrigerator, and then there's a
Oh,
sink
wow.
off to the side.
Oh,
Oh,
So I
wow.
mean, let's just say you
crazy.
wanted to do like an omelet bar. You could
Yeah.
do an omelet bar utilizing it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
But like that, there's no oven in them. So like the
Okay.
pizzas, we got to put their little name and locate in them, put them in the oven, and then we brought them out to the
Yeah.
kids. They could take them home.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We
That's neat.
talked so much about farms and food and everything like that. We talked a little bit about your cooking equipment. Like, what do your kitchens kind of look like inside? Like, you mentioned combi ovens and tilt skillets. What
Mhm.
else do you kind of use in your kitchens right now for the farm to table cooking? Or is it kind of just basically those two things?
Yeah, I mean, so our larger schools, we like the combis and the tilts because we're serving, upwards of 1,000 kids a day,
Yeah.
a lunch and a
Okay.
breakfast. And so our larger schools, we go with those tilts and combis. A lot of our elementary schools, obviously have the ranges, and because we're still doing about 400 or 500 meals in a lot of our kitchens, we utilize a lot of oven. We bake a lot of stuff
Okay.
for our elementaries, and so We just kind of enhanced the majority of when I came in, we had a lot of old equipment. There was a little bit of grant monies that I was able to get for the district, and we put new convection ovens, double deckers, these double decker ovens. So almost all of our kitchens now have four.
Nice.
So
Oh,
two double
awesome.
stacks. And then, we utilize, our immersion blenders and the traditional
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Lots of sheet pans, lots of
Yeah.
lots of shotgun pans, things of that nature. And then all of our schools have salad bars. So we have kind of the Cambro salad bars, and then we
Okay.
just got some grant monies out of Dairy Max to promote kind of breakfast. And so we got some nice stainless steel salad bars that we just got for our elementaries. Just enhancing as much as we possibly can.
Mhm.
I think we're gonna put a couple more combis in to some of our middle schools now.
Nice.
And so, I mean, again, you're as good as some of your resources, right? And
Yep.
in your brain, being innovative and being a good chef. You guys know how that goes.
Yeah, definitely.
Where do you see the future of school food service in general going? But definitely, where's the future of Rio Rancho's school meal program going?
So, I mean, again, I think at this point we have a solid foundation as far as staffing. We have a foundation of where we getting our product, utilizing farm to school. Um, I think all of our facilities are been modified, and a lot of our resources have done better. But in our district in particular, I like to see breakfast participation
Mm,
increase. And breakfast is a little bit difficult because everybody's in a rush in the mornings, right?
right.
The parents are running late and trying to get those kids into school early
Yep.
enough to try and eat. And so what we've been trying to do is a lot of grab and go, a lot of breakfast stuff. Um, but again, it's a little, sometimes it can be a little difficult doing the breakfast items from scratch,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
from breakfast to a lunch. Um, and so it's that balance and increasing breakfast participation. I would say as far as like a state, I think New Mexico does pretty well because we have universal free meals, and so our participations have increased significantly for lunch. But again, historically, across the nation, the struggle for national school lunch program is breakfast participation. It's
Okay.
unfortunate when you see the data, right? I mean, 40% of your kids are eating breakfast. Well, what happens to the rest of the 60? Well, they're probably
Yeah.
hungry until they go to lunch, or
Yeah.
they grab a Nutri-Grain bar or something on the way out. So we're really trying to expand that here, looking in those types of things. And then we'll see on the national level, man. It's very interesting on what's happening, right? We had old administration, we have new administration. And so historically, they've been reducing sodium and sugar content
Right.
from menu items. And so you take a lot of flavor out of the product, it becomes a little bit healthier. I mean, in some instances, but maybe not all. But now I think with the new administration, I think, they're trying to change certain things up. I would like to see them increase like fruit portion sizes, veggie
Okay.
portion sizes, and proteins.
Mm.
The protein, I mean, 4 ounces for, 6 ounces for a kid that's 260 pounds that plays football. Sometimes that's not enough for a
Mhm.
kid,
Not
right?
enough.
Yeah.
Not enough at
Yeah.
all. And
Right.
so, um, I would hope that USDA would take those things into consideration and maybe increase reimbursements for school districts so they can have a little bit more money to purchase organic products.
Yeah.
Okay.
Things that we do, we run a decent budget, so we're able to try and purchase those extra things. And then our state does supplement some grant monies to do New Mexico grown stuff. So there's a lot of facets. A lot of people don't realize how complex, school lunch is. It's very
Yeah.
complex. There's a lot of compliance behind it, and you're serving a lot of kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people don't think about this, but I've had our other directors, reference this, that you are the biggest restaurant chain in the state, or in your town,
Oh yeah,
because you are feeding more people than the rest than a restaurant does. So, you are that restaurant chain.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It's a lot, man, and it's very rewarding though. I mean, you go home at the end of the day, and our district we probably serve about 10,500 lunches a day, and
Yeah.
6,000 breakfasts minimum. So you can say, I helped contribute to feeding that amount of kids, right? That's
Yeah.
you're feeding your whole community basically, or
Yeah.
half the community if you think about it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to be proud of. Like I said, you're the Swiss Army knife of the school district out there, I feel like.
Thanks, man. I
Got a little
appreciate
bit
it.
of
Right?
a little bit of everything.
Always trying to spice it up a little bit, man.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. That's kind of the way I see it,
Never bored. Never bored.
Never dull day, that's for
Yep.
sure.
Spice it up with those hatch chilies.
There you go.
That's pretty good. I was actually telling my wife, so Santa Fe is really big on food, right? And tourism now, and they have some really good restaurants out there. And I miss one of the Spanish restaurants out there. La Chosa is pretty good out there.
Oh,
I
nice.
was telling Robert, I'm like, man, you got to come up here sometime, and I'll take you up to Santa Fe, and we could do some food tasting. We could get some ideas.
Yeah.
But I mean, New Mexico's cool, man. You guys got to come down here sometime.
Definitely.
Yeah, a number of years ago when before I moved to Phoenix, my wife and I took a trip to Albuquerque and Santa Fe and spent most of the time in Santa Fe. And oh my God, you could stumble in anywhere and it was amazing food. You couldn't find bad food in Santa Fe. It was so crazy. And it just smells so good, from the wood burning to all the food that's cooking all the time, that it's just like, wow. And people are so into their food up there in Santa Fe. It's just like, you find a local and you ask them where to eat, and they just get so pleased, and they just rattle off all these places, and you're just like, oh yeah, okay, I had this to the list.
You just won't get one
and
restaurant. You'll probably get about 5, right?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
right.
Minimum. They're like, are you trying to get a drink? Are you trying to get lunch, breakfast?
Yeah,
snack?
yeah,
That's great.
yeah. And the New Mexico red sauce. Oh man, it's just
Red chili sauce.
It's and it's trying to explain it to people when I came back is like, you're eating dirt, but in a good way. It's so earthy. It's so earthy. I mean, it's just like complex and earthy. It's just,
and the texture, I mean, and then it has heat, right? And you're like, what is going on
but
here?
it's not spicy, but it's rich. It gets you in the back of your throat, and it's just, oh man. I guess it's kind of like if you go to the Yucatan, you have like a mole from there or something like that. It's just like, it's so different.
Getting me hungry, Robert. It's almost that time.
Yeah, I'm hungry now too, so we got to wrap this up.
Yeah, I haven't been there yet, but so there's a New Mexican restaurant here in Phoenix that Chef Christopher, he's like the most famous celebrity chef here in town. He recommends this place as his go-to. So I've got to get over there and try it and see what it's all about, and get my New Mexican red sauce fill.
There you go. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should wrap it up here. This was a good one. So nice meeting you and learning exactly how passionate you are for this district with the schools and the farming. I love it.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it, guys. Like I said, the welcome's always come visit Rio Rancho Public Schools and New Mexico. Have some red chili sauce.
I would love that.
Come out and visit, man. It was nice to see you, Robert. Nice to meet you, Ryan. I appreciate
you too. Yeah,
putting this on for us, and hopefully some people got some valuable, informative information out of
definitely
our talk here for sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much, man. Have a great rest of your day.
Sounds good, guys.
Thank you, Felix.
I thought that was so much fun meeting Felix. It was awesome to hear about how passionate he was with the farm to school cooking, and how passionate he was, and how close he is to the farms and the farmers that he uses, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's what, his passion when he was down here for the tour to schools, just was, it just spilled out, and he got everybody else passionate about that. I mean, his enthusiasm just ran wild, and he just loved to talk about his program and what they're doing. And, we've heard some similar things about this, like I mentioned, Tucson's doing a program. Katie over there at St. Vrain's got something going on. So the farm to student movement really is taking hold, and it's great to see that because I've been cooking for a long time, and I remember when I first got into the industry, there wasn't the farm to table movement. Everything came from the broadliners.
Prepackaged.
And even if you were doing scratch cooking, it was still coming from the broadliner. It wasn't coming from a farmer. And as that changed and evolved over the years, it's so great that became the movement, and that's now the standard in a restaurant. And to see this, becoming now a movement with schools, it's going to be great. And, now we're educating the little ones, the kiddos, on what food should taste like, and what is local and what is seasonal, and all of that. We've talked about this with other people. You don't want a tomato in January.
No,
a tomato is tomato. Well, here in Arizona, we can get tomatoes in March, but in other places, it's you want it when it tastes good.
Right, in season.
So,
yeah. That was a good one. I enjoyed him quite a bit. Like they said, he's like the Swiss Army of that district. It feels like the Swiss Army knife of that district. He's done a little bit of everything.
Yep. Yeah.
Good person to have in that role.
Do you feel like spinning today, Ryan?
I can't with my kitchen right now.
Okay. Well, then give us some more of your enthusiastic, without spinning exit.
Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. Don't forget to click the subscribe button.